All right, so thanks, Amro, for coming down to the podcast today. It's been a while.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, today it's we have a fighter with us who's walked the path of physical and mental tenacity. So you're not only known for your prowess in the ring, but you're also a warrior in the mind. Now you've embraced the principles of mindfulness to navigate not only the fight world, but also your life, and we're going to get into that. We're going to dig a bit into your journey, into your fight processes, and the transformative power of the training that you've done with Team Tieu in the UK, and also a bit of mindset.
Yeah.
So guys, sit back, relax, and we're going to get a little bit to know you. And
Yes.
again, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, we've been good friends for a while now.
Yeah.
You introduced me by the Team Tieu guys.
Yeah.
But when I met you, you'd already been in London for a while. But can you share a little bit about, who is Amro? Because there's a lot of history to you, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you were a chef. Like you worked in a restaurant rather, and before in London, and you struggled a bit. You were a lot skinnier back then, and there was different. So talk a little bit about your upbringing. What about that formed the man that you are today?
Okay. Whew. So I was born in Milan, raised by an Egyptian family. My father and my mom are Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up in Milan, we grew up in a bit of a rough area called Barona. And I remember growing up, it was just very challenging. Like you will always have to fight over silly stuff with the kids. So you always had to have like this kind of tough mentality from young age to don't get like bullied or anything like that. To be fair, luckily, I have never been bullied when I was young. I have, but very little bit. Not for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I've seen people getting it way worse than me. And but at the age of 15, my parents were so strict because obviously we're Muslims. So I don't know what's about foreign parents they have, but they always think, oh, my son or my daughter need to be this, and that. Like for them, they wanted me to be a lawyer, a doctor. To be fair, I wanted to study to be an architect. That was my absolute dream, was to become an architect when I was a kid. Secondary school. Then I went to high school and I started, I was about 14, 15. I started mixing up with the wrong people. So, your first join, your silly stuff, as what every kid does. Obviously, my parents being so strict, they never wanted me to like go out, always stay at home and study the Quran, everything, study Arabic language. That's why now I can read and write, thankfully. But it was hard when you're a kid. When you're a kid, all you want to do is just, you want to go out with your friends, you want to party, this kind of silly stuff. So at the age of 15, I told my dad that I wanted to do kickboxing. Because the reason why is I used to watch Giorgio Petrosian, which is one of my biggest inspirations, in Octagon, which they used to do it on a channel called Italia Uno in Italy. Every 6 weeks or so, they used to do this thing called Octagon. And Petrosian was like the main guy. I was like, geez, this guy's sick. So I started being more interested into the kickboxing. But mainly, it was an escape for me. It wasn't really about the kickboxing. It was me trying to get out of the house. So what I used to do is, I made my dad take me to a kickboxing gym. I went there a couple of times. Then what I used to do is, I used to tell my mom, I'm going to go training, grab the bag, hide it, and go out with my friend.
Yeah.
And then, that didn't really last long. Then at the age of 16, I done some stupid stuff. So I got arrested and I was on probation on a tag. So that made me even more angry. I was a very angry kid. Then from there, I just see like, I had this mentality of like, fuck the world, blah, blah, blah. It's me against everyone. This kind of style, like, you know, fuck the police, all this shit. Where every kid goes through if you do stuff like this.
Yeah.
You start hating the government. You say, oh, the police does this.
Yeah.
Reality is, bro, you do something wrong, you pay for it. That is it. That's what I always say anyways to the others and stuff. But then after that, they gave me a sentence and I had to go after school. I had to go to this rehab center where they helped me with homework, change my mindset and stuff like this. And by then I was about 16 and a half. Then I started doing some more dodgy stuff. So I failed the sentence. So they had to take me away from my family to Piemonte, which is far away from my house. About 4-hour drive.
Yeah. Because you're not quite an adult yet, right? So you can't do anything yet.
Yeah,
you have to go to like a juvenile kind
yeah,
of
yeah, exactly.
housing.
Yeah, a juvenile housing where you live with immigrants, people that they were young and they came on a boat, and criminals that they're your age. So it's a step before prison. So before they take you to prison, they take you to there. Then if you're worse, then obviously your sentence will go to prison.
Yeah.
So that place there taught me discipline. Like, oh my God, the structure in there, I've never experienced anything like this. I would have rather went prison, because prison, you got an hour free a day. That's it. The rest, up to you what you want to do. You stay in or you stay, you got some activities to do, that's it. That place, 7 a.m., you have to wake up. Then you got to go downstairs, breakfast, and talk about your feelings in front of like another 15 guys.
Yeah.
What have you done the day before? And if you done a mistake or you were nasty to someone, you got to apologize to them face to face.
Yeah.
And we had these guys, they were like the guards. They try to push your limit so much to get a reaction of you. Obviously, I used to be very hot-headed, so they will always get a reaction of me. Like, ain't no way they wouldn't. One, it was because I was hot-headed. Two, is because I felt like I always had to prove something. You don't want to be that bitch. Do you know what I mean? Like, the one that just sits back.
Especially
and like...
in that environment.
Exactly. You know, everyone else won't respect you.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for about just under a year, about 11 months. And then I had my third sentence and I was freed. But in the meantime, after 7 months that I was well behaved, they started sending me to work with my dad. Back then, my dad had a restaurant, but it wasn't really doing well, to be fair. That was the main reason why we started being a bit, finding other ways to make money, because we didn't really want to have money from our parents, because we see like at home the situation was really tough. So I felt bad asking money. So this is what, like, I was like, me and my little brother, he's always been my right hand in everything. We were like dynamite couple, like together. I'm glad we ain't like, I miss him every day, but I'm glad we ain't together anymore.
He's
because
in Italy?
Yeah, he is. I'm glad we went our ways, because I don't think my life would have been 10% of what I have if I stayed in Milan, because it was hard, like really hard. And then coming out from there, I came out in November. In December, I turned 18. So I had my Italian citizenship, because in Italy it works for the first 18 years. Even if you're born there, you're Egyptian, but born in Italy. Once you turn 18, then you get the citizenship.
You can apply for it.
Yeah. You don't really apply. You just go and request it. You get it because you're born there.
Because you were born there, you don't get it automatically.
No, you don't get automatically. You get after you're 18. Because what they do is they test your behavior. Luckily, what happened is when I finished my sentence, I finished it a month before turning 18. And what happened is I finished it with like well manners. Like I finished it well. So what happened when they looked at my thing. They said, yeah, he had a bump in the road, but the guy is good at the end of the day. So what happened? They gave it
So
to
it
me.
worked then. That system kind of then worked.
It
You know, got you the discipline.
Yeah.
Got you the...
It worked, but I was too young for it to work. It works now. Like, if I look at it now, I live my life, but them the rules. Like, the structure I had back then, it kind of works now. In a different way, but it works.
Yeah.
Then, when I turned 18, I had the citizenship. Then, in May, that's 5 months after, a friend of mine messaged me being like, I live in London. I was like, bro, I'm gonna come. He was like, oh, I couldn't wait for one of my friends to say that.
Yeah.
It was a Wednesday. And I went to my dad and I was like, I'm going to London. He said, you ain't going nowhere, you crazy guy. I said, yeah, I promise I am. He said, with what money? I said, just don't worry. I sold my D&G watch to a guy called Claudio, a friend of mine, 70 euro. My dad gave me 220 euro. And 300 euro is all I had. I took a luggage, my passport, and I came. This friend of mine didn't make me pay rent or nothing at the start. And then, but he helped me find a job.
In the restaurant?
In a restaurant, yeah. So I worked as a kitchen porter first, washing dishes and stuff.
Where?
In a place called Le Pont de la Tour. All my days. That place used to be a Michelin star place.
Pont de la Tour. Where is that, Mayfair?
No, it's in Tower Hill. French restaurant. Like, you know, one of them bow ties level.
Yeah.
Hard. Working there, I have never experienced feeling humiliated and like unvalued as a human, like in that place. Like, you don't value shit in there.
Yeah.
So what I used to do is I used to work from 4 p.m. until 4 in the morning.
Ooh.
Yeah, 12-hour shift.
Wow.
Because we used to close quite late with a 40-minute break. One time, then after like 2 months, I got promoted to commis waiter, which is, the commis waiter is, keep in mind, back then, like zero English, not even hello, like nothing.
Really?
Nothing,
Yeah.
not even hi.
Yeah.
All I used to do is I used to listen a lot to Whitney Houston, because her words are really like, it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to Whitney Houston and read the words. When I don't understand nothing, trying to translate it. So music really did help me a lot with the English. So after being promoted to commis waiter, the work just became a bit harder and harder, because I didn't have to communicate much, but I still have to communicate, because a kitchen porter, all you do is clean dishes. You don't really have to speak to anyone. Nothing, zero. It's just you and the dishes. When you're a commis job is like when the chefs call service, you go there, the chef tells you the table number.
Yeah.
You go to the waiter, you say the table number, you stand there with a tray like this. They take the plate off you and they serve it to the table, right?
Yeah.
So, but for example, like, oh, can I clear this? Can I say that? You needed to know that, but back then I couldn't communicate. So what I used to do is I used to bring an Italian guy luckily everyone in the kitchen was Italian, like working with me. Yeah. So I used to take one of them and go and like ask him, oh, what is he saying? He used to translate to me and I'll get it done. But one episode that stuck in my mind until now is, it was about midnight and we done about 240 covers, 4 of us. And I used to smoke cigarettes back then. So I told one of my colleagues I'm going to go for a cigarette. But reality is I should have went to the manager and told him. I went out to have a cigarette and I was smoking. This manager here came and saw me there. And he told me, who did you ask? Back then I couldn't really speak. So what I said, it was like, my colleague. He was like, oh, colleague. Okay, come in. So he made me come inside the kitchen and he said, everyone stop. Everyone go home. Amro's gonna finish the service by himself. Mate, I'm kidding you not. I had dishes you don't understand, like this,
Yeah.
piled.
A whole restaurant's worth.
The whole restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to wipe every single plate, cutlery, everything in that kitchen. I wiped it off myself.
Yeah.
I finished maybe about 4:35 in the morning.
Did you work for Gordon Ramsay or something?
Man, it was like that style
Wow.
of restaurant.
Yeah.
I didn't even take the bus home.
Yeah.
I've walked from Tower Hill, and back then I used to live in Bow Road, just after my land. I've walked from Tower Hill to Bow Road crying, thinking, who the fuck made me do this?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I knew that staying in London was the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, Milan would have been the end. Also, my friends were betting on me that I will come back, that I will never resist. And like, the more they bet, the more they made me stubborn. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. I'll never come back. So yeah, that's a bit of a story.